Well, good evening, everyone. I'm so happy that you're all able to join us for this webinar tonight, hosted by the Community Alliance with Family Farms, San Benito Agricultural Land Trust, and Hipcamp. My name is Mika. I'll be your host for this webinar, and I'm joined by my friends here on screen, Evelyn and Laura, and very excited to talk to you tonight. So, by way of introductions, my name is Mika. Like I said, I'm the head of government and community relations for Hipcamp, where I've been for about 5 years. My job is to work with private landowners, advocacy organizations, and local governments to create and strengthen protections for private land, rural recreation, and agriculture across the US, UK, Australia, and Canada. And I'm joined here by Evelyn Ponce, the Farm to Market Manager for Community Alliance with Family Farmers, where she's been for almost 4 years supporting small farms, providing technical assistance, and managing part of the Farms Together program, which is exceptional. And then I also have with us tonight Laura Kirschman. She is the operational manager at the San Benito Agricultural Land Trust. She's been with the organization for 3 years and helps manage the day-to-day operations and support programs that connect people to local agriculture. She is really excited about her role and the role that agritourism can play in helping farmers diversify their income while giving the public meaningful experiences on the land. So tonight we're going to be talking about new rules in California, agritourism-based camping, and all the help that can provide to farm owners and landowners. So very excited to have you all tonight, and thank you, Evelyn and Laura, for being here. Before we get started with the program, I'm just going to give Evelyn and Laura a chance to talk a little bit more about their organization, since some of them may be new to you. So Laura, why don't we start with you?
Thank you, Mika. I appreciate it. Yes, like she said, my name is Laura. I'm the operations manager at the San Benito Agricultural Land Trust. At SBALT, our mission is to conserve regionally significant lands that sustain agriculture, preserve open space, and protect the rural character of our county. Conservation of San Benito County's open space happens when agriculture remains viable. That's where agritourism and on-farm stays come in. These offer our farmers and ranchers new ways to generate income while inviting the public to experience working lands. I appreciate you guys all being here today.
Yeah, and hello everyone. My name is Evelyn Ponce. I'm the Farm to Market Manager at the California Community Alliance with Family Farmers. And we are a nonprofit here in California that helps support small farmers with a variety of programs, from helping out with ecological practices to advocating in Sacramento for policy that helps support small farmers. We've been around since 1979, and for any farmers that are joining in the call today, we are happy to follow up and are available for to support you all in your work. And thank you so much for having us.
Awesome, thank you. So we'll go ahead and get started. So for those of you who are less familiar with Hipcamp, hi, I work for Hipcamp. We are the #1 app for finding and booking campsites in the US and really around the world. We partner with landowners, farm owners, in all 50 states in the US, and more than half of our hosts are welcoming campers onto working lands, so farms, ranches, wineries, orchards, and engaging in what we call camping-based agritourism. So at Hipcamp, our mission is twofold: to get more people outside and to leverage outdoor recreation dollars to protect and conserve private land and our agricultural heritage. So far, Hipcamp has helped open access to about 7 million acres of private land internationally and put $300 million into the pockets of rural landowners. And that's why this is such a great opportunity to talk with you all tonight about the way that this type of small scale camping can really support long-term agricultural workers, landowners, farm owners in California specifically, given what we're seeing with growing demand. So just to pull back, the world of camping is really changing in the US. Post-COVID, we saw this huge explosion in outdoor recreation, and now we're seeing it get scaled back. RV use is down, some types of traditional camping are down, but generally, small-scale boutique camping is surging in demand, and that demand is really being led by a new generation of campers, whether they're first-generation campers, whether they're communities of color, LGBTQ folks, young people. These people are newer to getting outside into camping, and they're very excited to have a real authentic experience in a rural area on an agricultural property and get some of those agritourism experiences, food tourism experiences, while also getting to see that campsite, get to know their hosts in advance. And so there's a really big opportunity there to meet that demand and to really support our agricultural properties while we're doing that. I think too, especially in California, public lands have become so overcrowded and so competitive. It can be really hard to get your family outside, especially in areas like San Benito that are really in demand. And so agritourism-based camping is a great way to expand outdoor access, take pressure off our public lands, and put some money directly into the hands of landowners and farm owners who are looking for alternative streams of revenue. At Hipcamp, that's exactly what we do. And so just in 2025 alone, we generated over $1 million in small scale camping sales in California, with another $45 million in economic benefit to communities. We know each one of our campers spends about $400 per person per trip at local businesses in the area. So it's not just the farm, the ranch, the working land that's benefiting, it's also the rural community. At the same time, I know I don't have to explain any of this to you, our farms are really struggling. Since 2002, California has lost 12% of farmland, and the number of farms has decreased by 21%. I think we've all seen this, and especially with climate change, with water costs, with tariffs, it's harder and harder to make money from working lands. And so agritourism, and especially agritourism-based camping, is an exceptional opportunity to expand that revenue and keep these lands working. And Hipcamp does this work with a ton of partners, including San Benito Agricultural Land Trust and CAFF. We also work with Audubon, with Xerces Society, REI, Latino Outdoors, a ton of different organizations who are striving really hard to protect not just public lands, but private land and outdoor access. So the reason we're here really is because a lot of those organizations and Hipcamp worked together last year to pass a piece of legislation called Assembly Bill 518 in California, which is really revolutionizing permitting pathways for small scale camping on private land. And so AB 518 differentiated between the permitting required for a commercial scale 200 RV kind of campground and a farmer or rancher who wants to host a couple of campers on the weekends during high season to support their property management. And so now, if camping areas can meet this new definition of low impact camping, and they exist within a county that authorizes low impact camping, they're only going to need some minor local permitting instead of also having to go through this $100,000 infrastructure requirement and state permit process that was required before. So really, AB 518 differentiates between this type of camping and this type of camping. I don't know if you can see the tent on this property, but just take a second to look for it. It's right there. And this is a real Hipcamp property. So really, before, the types of infrastructure you want for a commercial campground were also required for this type of camping. Things like 18-foot paved roads, gendered built bathrooms, shower houses with hot and cold water. And now there's a real opportunity to expand on low impact camping on ag lands because the permitting has been differentiated. So what does AB 518 actually say? AB 518 sets the definition for low impact camping areas at the state level and allows counties to expand upon it. But generally, you could have a low impact camping area if you have a rural property. You can have 9 or fewer campsites. You have to have 2 acres or more, and your campsites per acre are limited to 1. That doesn't mean it's how you place the campsites. It's really just a density limit. So if you have 5 acres, you could have up to 5 campsites. If you have 9 acres, you could have up to 9 campsites. If you have 900 acres to qualify as a low impact camping area, you could still have only 9 campsites. And then of those 9, 4 can be for RVs, but no more than 4 at one time. You also can't have any on-street parking. Like I said, it has to be a rural property as defined by the census. You have to have a designated property manager, not necessarily the landowner or farm owner, but somebody available 24/7 while campers are on the property. And you have to comply with all local requirements around bathrooms, fire management, and things like that. And then in terms of stay length, we really see demand for 2-night stays, weekend stays on agricultural properties. But we mirrored public lands limits within the state bill. And so a camper can stay on a property for no longer than 14 days. In California, there are actually already a lot of local regulations that address rural recreation and camping-based agritourism. They're just called different things. So these are a handful of examples. We know that San Luis Obispo County, San Benito County, Santa Barbara, Nevada all have policies already in place that are specific to their counties. And there's a handful, maybe 10 to 20 counties that are also working on draft legislation right now. So this issue is really hot. I think a lot of counties are very interested in supporting their agricultural community and rural tourism. And so we can talk more about this at the end, but it's very possible that if you're on this call, your county has already created a permitting pathway for you to host small scale camping on working lands, or they're in the process of doing so right now. So let's pivot a little bit to what it takes to get started, since I imagine that's why a lot of you are here. It doesn't take a lot to start hosting campers. Mostly what you need is a flat spot and a good perspective on hospitality. On Hipcamp, listing is free and hosts control their own pricing and availability. So it's very simple for you to say, hey, I can't have campers during high season for harvest, or I'm going out of town these weeks. You have complete control of when you want to host, when you're available, what your pricing looks like. And we take a 15 commission off the top of bookings that we send you. And that commission covers secure payment processing and all the credit card transaction fees, as well as liability insurance up to 1 million per stay, which I think is really important. A lot of our landowner partners really rely on that as a secondary form of insurance, a just in case policy. I just said this. But again, I think it's worth repeating that we do offer this $1 million insurance on every booking and a $10,000 property protection program for hosts as well. And I really love working for Hipcamp because we make it easy to get started, and we really believe in supporting our landowner and farm owner partners in everything from marketing to insurance to one-on-one coaching. We have a team that's available around the clock if you need help managing your calendar, creating a discount code for your CSA members, for example, figuring out how much to charge for your site or everything in between. We also offer a lot of support with collecting and remitting local taxes. I know a lot of your counties have transient occupancy taxes or T-bid. That is something we can help you navigate and support you in that. We're a really human-based community team, and we always have people available to help. Plus, when you list with Hipcamp, you're getting in front of 7 million campers, 18 million unique visitors a year, and a really positive family-based community that's looking for camping experiences. A lot of our campers are traveling within 2 hours of their home, so they tend to know these communities. They're on Hipcamp because they want to stay outside, so they're not going to expect a hotel-like experience from your property. And most of them are traveling in groups of 2 or 4. So we see a lot of couples or couples with 2 young kids who are very excited to pet your goats, see your beehives, eat local food. They're just all about it. So that's a really great experience, I think, for everybody involved. Okay, so what does it take to get started? Really, this is basically about starting with what you have. A lot of our landowners or farm owners decide to just start with small scale camping, maybe tent camping, and see how it goes, see how they like hosting, and expand from there. So it can look anything like this, just having a couple of people pop a tent in a field on the weekend. Or you could offer dry camping in an RV. This is a really low infrastructure, low investment way for working farm and landowners to get involved because these folks can often supply their own potable water. They can deal with their own human waste. And so that can be really low impact to just give it a try. And then some other folks decide to go a little more heavy on the investment early on and set up a glamping structure. Glamping is very quickly becoming one of the most popular ways for folks to get outside in the US. So you can make additional income just by doing a little bit more setup here, especially if you've done hospitality before. This is a great option for landowners and farm owners. Other things that we know really set up landowners and farm owners for success is thinking about a few key things in advance. Drinking water. Do you want to supply potable water? What's that going to look like? Does it come from a tap, a hose, or bottles? I think really clarifying with campers what that experience is going to be can be really helpful for them imagining themselves on your property. Same with toilets. We require some type of human waste management system, and often your county policy will have a specificity here that we can help you navigate. But if you don't have a toilet, like hooked up to a septic, you can often supply a porta potty or a compost toilet, or you can offer dry camping where you only accept recreational vehicles that have their own human waste management system and can remove that from the property. But making that very clear and having a plan to manage human waste is really important for you, your campers, and your neighbor. And of course, fire safety is really key. At Hipcamp, we have an integration with the National Weather Service so that once you're a host, you get all fire bans and fire warnings straight on your phone, and those get toggled on for campers so they know, hey, this weekend that you're planning to come, you cannot have a campfire of any kind. But in terms of the kinds of fire you want to allow on your property, that's up to you and your local county as long as you follow all regulations. So we recommend something like a propane pit with an on-off switch, or you can have a group fire pit where multiple campers can come and you can make sure you're personally managing that. But thinking through how you're going to manage fire, how you're going to set up folks for success, and how you're going to be really safe is smart. We also have an entire fire education hub at Hipcamp and a fire council we work with on internal fire policies. So if this is something that's new to you, we have a lot of resources and support to help you get started and to think about this. And then again, access to your property. Lots of folks will plug an address into Google, then they can't find your property, they get confused about street names, or it's on a private road with a locked gate. So thinking about the best way to have folks get in and out is important to do in advance. Same thing with pets. People love being able to bring their pets on these types of camping trips. But if you have animals on site that are off leash or grazing, that's really important for campers to know. And you can always welcome pets onto your property in any way that you see fit. But if you want those pets on leash or you don't want people to bring pets, it's helpful to have that laid out in advance. We also recommend quiet hours and really thinking about your property boundaries. A lot of your properties, I'm sure, are multi-acre, very rural, and not necessarily fenced all the way around. And so it's important to keep campers that you welcome onto your property on your property. So if you need to think about setting up signage or a hand-drawn map or printed maps around your property to keep folks from trespassing onto your neighbor's land, that's a really helpful thing to consider in advance. And then finally, be a good neighbor. One of the best things about hosting with Hipcamp is that you're reaching people who are looking for the experience you're providing. They're not interested in alternatives to hotels, but just because you want folks on your property doesn't necessarily mean your neighbors are going to be expecting that. So talking to your neighbors, we really recommend thinking about and doing in advance, and then doing your research on the policy pieces. The permitting can be kind of wonky to navigate, especially in a county where you may be one of the first people trying to do this. So Hipcamp has a policy team, of which I am a part, that can offer you a little bit of hand-holding and navigation for this, so that you can really make sure you're in compliance and being safe and respectful all the way around. And then just setting up clear expectations for your campers. Is it going to be cold? Do they need a sleeping bag and a pillow? What are you providing? What are you not providing? Just being really clear with folks in your community and via your hosting is paramount to your success. But then offer what makes you special. extras on Hipcamp are huge. Campers can purchase something from you before they even show up. We call that extras on Hipcamp. So it could be anything from a bundle of firewood to a breakfast basket that you provide. I stayed on a property in Mendocino County once that let me go gather eggs from their chickens, and then they brought me like tools to make a camp breakfast myself with some homemade bread. And I cannot tell you how much people are willing to pay to do your farm chores for you. They want to shovel poop. They want to brush horses. They want to see what your life is like and really get exposed to that agricultural lifestyle. And so this can be a really fun way to support overnight guests and be a huge boon for a farm business. And this is just a great quote from some of our agricultural hosts. They said, Hipcamp attracts the right people, folks ready to be in touch with nature, leave no trace, and looking for more of a rustic getaway versus a hotel. That's really what we specialize in. And I hope that's what's exciting to many of you. So let's get into the nitty-gritty of how much you could potentially make doing this. In summer, hosts earn an average of $1,200 per month, since this is very secondary for a lot of our hosts who are also running full-time properties. But our top earners clear $10,000 a month. So there's a wide range of opportunity here. And I'm going to share a couple examples of farm and ranch properties in California that are hosting on Hipcamp and what their experience has looked like. So this is Kenny Enney and his family. They're on the coast of San Luis Obispo. Kenny is a fifth generation grain and cattle rancher on 850 acres. They love this property, but open range has gotten harder and harder and more expensive to manage. And so in 2019, Kenny started listing 2 canvas tents, like safari style tents on his property that he used similarly when he was in the military. And he added a couple of pop-up tents since then. But he is clearing 6 figures. He is fully permitted, and it has been an incredible way for him to keep his land in his family, but also support it as rangeland instead of taking offers from developers to turn it into second homes and things like that. Another example of a great property you have on the website is Running Springs Ranch Lavender. They're a lavender farm up in the Ukiah area. They've been hosting for 10 years. They have 100% positive reviews. They only have 2 glamping tents on 50 acres, so this is a pretty small scale property project for them, but they are going very strong. And I know this has been a huge boon for them being able to really smooth out the bumps of agricultural seasons and financials. And then the last one I'll show you is Estero San Antonio. This is a working farm and ranch in Petaluma. They host 5 campsites and an Airstream. And so their property is huge. It's beautiful. It's very rural. The host actually doesn't live on site, but he lives on an adjoining property. And this has been a massive boon for them, especially as property taxes have gone up. And they're also under Williamson Act protection. So that's something we can talk more about too for folks who are interested. And then just because I know we have some organizational representatives on the call, not just farm and landowners, I wanted to share that Hipcamp is also a tool for nonprofits. Slide Ranch, for instance, is a nonprofit organization located on the Marin Coast. They operate on public land with a lease. They were one of the first park partners in the Golden Gate National Recreational Area, and they use camping to fund scholarships for youth programs on their property. So right on the listing, they make it clear that you're entering an unpaved ranch environment. They're distinctly different from other commercial campgrounds or RV parks in the area, and they don't offer showers or flush toilets. These campsites are what we now call low impact camping, and they fully fund the conservation and education work they do on the property. In 1 year, they've actually seen the revenue grow more than 200% since they opened up camping, and they've been able to fund 380 new scholarships in that time. So if you are a nonprofit partner and you have land or land leasing, that can be a great way for you to utilize Hipcamp as well. This is not an exhaustive list of organizations that use Hipcamp and recreation to fund conservation and land stewardship work. This is just some of our partners. But I want to highlight that nonprofit organizations across the country leverage our platform to generate bookings educate the public on their conservation efforts, or like the Finger Lakes Land Trust or Post in California. They've worked with us to draft easement language that allows for limiting camping on properties where it makes sense and share that out with their landowner partners and host properties that they own as well. Sorry, my baby's crying in the background. I don't know if you can hear her. Okay, so you can actually toggle into another tab on your browser if you want and go to hipcamp.com/start now and plug in your own address or location, what type of camping you think you'd want to host, and how many nights a year you'd be interested in hosting. And you can get a real sense right now of how much you might be able to make on Hipcamp. We just built this tool, so you are probably going to be some of the first people to use it. So I would say let's just pause for 1 minute and give folks a chance to go to hipcamp.com/start now, get a sense of what you might be able to make, and then put it in the Q&A and tell us what you think. I'll just give you a couple minutes to play with this and we'll pause. Okay, I'm going to keep us going, but I hope some of you are playing with that information because I've been toggling it on and off and it's really fun. Okay. Great. So we're getting to the end of our presentation. I want to leave a lot of room for questions, but I did want to put on your radar that the UC Agritourism Extension Office is hosting an agritourism summit this September 23rd to 25th in San Luis Obispo County. I'll be there, and I know a lot of our partners on this call will be as well. And that'll be a great opportunity to get to know other agricultural landowners and farm owners across California, explore services, financial opportunities, conservation and easement opportunities that so many of our organizational partners are offering, and just get to build more community around agritourism and explore with other people who are already doing it, what that could look like for you. So if you're interested in this, you can Google it right now, or I'll send out the registration information in a follow-up email. San Benito Agricultural Land Trust, Laura, you can talk about this, but you're also hosting a local meetup in the next couple of weeks. So we'll send information about that as well. But if you're in the San Benito area, I would highly recommend you getting in touch with the Agricultural Land Trust. They're doing such incredible work, and being able to do on-site hikes and visits and work with them is so much fun. So I highly recommend that, and I'll send that in a follow-up email too. And please be able to get in touch. This is the email addresses for Laura, for Evelyn, and for me. So feel free to copy those down. And again, go to hipcamp.com/start now to learn a lot more about hosting. But you can reach out to our team at policy@hipcamp.com at any point to talk one-on-one about your questions, your experience, your particular land and property. And we would love to help you think this through. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen for now because I know we have so many questions. And I am going to open up the conversation. Evelyn, Laura, is there anything else you'd like to add before we start taking Q&A?
Yes, of course. I did just want to plug in a great resource right now. I know there are some folks asking about county specific like ordinance information. So in the UCANR's website, there is also a tool where you can see different information for your county. I think we're also going to add that link on the follow-up email so y'all will have access to that, but just naming that that resource is available. And I encourage everyone to look at your county and the different resources that y'all can access.
Great. Laura, anything you'd like to add?
Yes, I did put it in the chat as well, but we are hosting a hike on San Antonio Ranch. And San Antonio Ranch, we just got some really good news today. We just received some state funding for to go towards the purchase of that property to keep it in perpetuity. It's going to be rangeland. It's, yeah, no development whatsoever. So, but we will be hosting a hike on May 3rd, and you're welcome to go to our website and register for that.
Awesome. I'm going to start scrolling through the chat, but feel free to use the Q&A box. That's going to be the easiest way for us to see questions that haven't yet been answered. But I'm going to scroll through right now and see additional questions that some folks have been asking. So give me just a second to read through these. Okay. I see Kim Young asked about a list of counties um, that have or have not opted in. I will provide that information for you in the follow-up email. But for right now, in terms of counties that have some type of permitting for small-scale camping on agricultural or rural lands, we know that Tehama, Nevada, San Benito, Santa Barbara, San Luis Obispo, and a handful of others have those. Ventura is working on a draft right now. It's with their planning department. Humboldt, Mendocino, and El Dorado and Tuolumne are also in the process of exploring their own policies. The ag community in Marin is having that conversation, and there are a few more processes in the works, but I can provide more information about published, finalized policies in the follow-up email. But you can also email us anytime at policy@hipcamp.com, and we can provide more bespoke one-on-one resourcing on that. Let me scroll down to the bottom. Okay, so Abby asked a question about who in the county you can get in touch with if you want to talk about AB 518 opt-in or permitting. I definitely recommend reaching out to your board of supervisors. Your specific district supervisor is a great place for you to start having this conversation about your experience as a landowner or farm owner, what you're hoping to do, and you can ask them directly if they've heard about AB 518 and are interested in opting in. The department that often works on these code updates is the planning department. So you can also email your planning director in the county, or if you have an ag commissioner, you can reach out to them, and it can be somewhat of a just conversational collaboration across staff. Let's see. Any additional questions that folks would like to see answered, you can put in the Q&A or you can put straight into the chat. Okay. I'm not, oh, let's see. Taylor asked, curious what ranchers have done about pets and their animals before. That is a really good question. We have a lot of ranchers on the platform who offer overnight stays. I think generally the thing that they do is make it very clear in the listing description and the follow-up messages with campers that they have animals roaming the property. The landowner is pretty clear about, I will put you in X area, our livestock will be in Y area, but you may encounter them if you walk to this part of the property. So I think generally we see on-leash pet requirements on working ranches or areas with livestock, and just really good communication about what a camper can expect in terms of noise, sight, interaction with the animals, if they shouldn't interact with the animals, and general stuff that I think feels intuitive to you and me, but may not feel intuitive to a camper. Things like, if a gate is open, leave it open. If a gate is closed, leave it closed. So I think really making the implicit explicit in your expectations for campers and your listing description can go a huge way to making sure everybody feels safe and clear on the rules before anybody even books the property. Any last questions from folks before we give you back the rest of your evening? Okay. Great. Well, I will put my email in the chat. Again, it's on the screen, but Evelyn and Laura, feel free to put any information you want in the chat. Otherwise, we will follow up with a big email in the next few days with a lot of opportunities for more follow-up conversation, for in-person gatherings. And thank you so much for your time. Laura, Evelyn, it's incredible to get to partner with you both. I'm such a fan of the work that you do. And thanks for being a part of our program.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Mika.
Thank you. Have a good night, everybody.